Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new Wednesday Night Warrior. I'm Spencer. I'm the host of Constructive Criticism and Mythicast, two podcasts about improving at Magic the Gathering. And today, we're looking at the deck list dump from Magic the Gathering Online. So, a little bird told me that Stoneforge Mystic was the second most played card in this deck list dump. I don't know if that's true. I haven't looked yet. This will be my first time going over as much as we can of the deck list dump, I should say. So we're going to pull it up from August 30th, and we're going to kind of take a look at what people are doing, what's doing well, anything new and interesting, and kind of just talk about it. Don't forget to check out our sponsor at PureMTGO.com. Thank you so much to them, and let's dive in to this week's deck list dump. Or the August 30th deck list dump, at least. So, the first deck we have here is Burn by Lilzin. It looks like this is actually a Bump of the Night deck. So it's got Bump of the Night Skewer, kind of as many 3 damage. It plays 15 3 mana plus 4 more here, plus Searing Blaze. Looks like a main deck Grim Lavamancer. So pretty, Bump of the Night, not typical, but other than that, everything looks pretty close. Only 2 Skullcracks in the 75 is interesting. Really low hatred there. We have the Lab Maniac deck, being the Chancellor of Tangle, Gristlebrand, Pact of Negation. Anything interesting in this Neoform list? Don't see anything too different from what I saw on during the challenge yesterday. I guess that was after these came out too, so... We have a Sword of Light and Shadow in the first Stoneforge deck. This is Bant Stoneforge with, looks like, the combo. So it's the Devoted Druid combo with Stoneforge Mystic. So interesting to see this deck adopting this card. Kind of gives you a little bit of a fairer game plan with this deck, which, could probably help this out quite a bit. Not sure if this is a deck that I would be interested in, but... it's got a lot. Eldamari's Call is another new card that this deck got. The thing that is interesting to me about this is we're not playing Collected Company. And that's interesting. Not a lot for me to say about this deck. I do think it's interesting that Light and Shadow was chosen. I know a lot of people are talking about the difference between Light and Shadow, Feast and Famine, and Fire and Ice. In a deck like this... I would think that Fire and Ice is the best, but it looks like Light and Shadow was the one chosen. It probably had more to do with the protection colors than anything else. So we have our first Dredge deck. This deck playing Insolent Neonate. I know that we played against a deck in the challenge that played Tome Scour, that top aided over Insolent Neonate, so that was interesting. This deck looks like it's only playing these 7 1-drops, though, which is not a lot. 3 Conflagrates. But yeah, it looks like, Dredge still doing well with the Faithless Looting banning, and is still pretty reasonable. This Blast Zone, is that stock? I don't know that I've seen that before. Next up, we have the 5-0 list. This one's going for Feast and Famine. This is an Ether Vial. Looks like a, kind of like a, it looks like a Taxes deck almost, with Leonin Arbiter, and Thalia. Interesting. This is certainly a way that you could build your Teferi deck with Stoneforge Mystic. One thing that I wonder is, if I'm going to play Teferi in my Stoneforge Mystic decks, if I actually want more equipment, if 2 is even enough. But then I guess you could run the risk of just drawing them anyway. Giver of Ruins is one that, having it protect Teferi, having it protect your Thalias. This is a really interesting deck. I'm excited to see if this deck becomes something people are more interested in doing now. This deck does have Sinew and Steel and Fire and Ice on the board, and Light and Shadow, so tons of equipment. Kind of probably just trying stuff out here. Gideon Ally of Zendikar, kind of a big threat of the board. So that deck looks interesting. Next up, we have another Stoneforge Mystic deck. This one, Eldrazi Stompy. Eldrazi Taxes, I should say. This one does have 3 equipment. This list looks the best to me so far. I'm not really a fan of this style of deck. This is a deck that I like to play, but it makes a lot of sense to me that this would be a deck that's doing well and something that people would be excited about. I think this deck was up a good card away from just being really good. And I mean, Stoneforge Mystic's a great card. I think this makes a lot of sense, and is a deck that I would be interested in. I know I posted a screenshot in the public Discord for constructive criticism. You can check out that of Thought-Knot Seer holding an equipment that I saw on Twitter. That was super interesting to me. I think the sideboard gets pretty good. It's interesting though that you got the wardens in the sideboard. This list though, if we're looking at it, does not have some of the other Taxes stuff that you could be doing. I don't think the double white on what is it called? Leonin Arbiter. Oh, it's not double white. It's single. It's single white. Interesting. So no Leonin Arbiter in here, even though the 4 Ghost Quarters. So that's interesting. I don't know if that's normal. I've not played a lot of Taxes myself, but it's certainly something worth talking about. Here we have straight blue-white control. There are no Stoneforge Mystics in it. 2 Supreme Verdicts, so no split there for humans, but a ton of instants and sorceries. 2 Logic Knot in. Oh wait, this is not. This is not blue-white. This is Esper. Okay, Esper could be good going over the top. That could make some sense. I played against this deck at the Grand Prix. This Mystic Forge Affinity blue deck. This deck is something. I don't know if this deck is good. I played against this at the Grand Prix in Vegas. It seemed fine. But it is interesting to see it putting up 5-0. I know Mystic Forge is like a heck of a card. So I would not be shocked if, there were many opportunities to make this card better in Modern right now. Next up, we have Karn the Great Creator, Urza, Fatal Push, Whir. Looks like we have a Esper Whir deck with Stoneforge Mystic. So Stoneforge Mystic can grab Sword of the Meek, can grab Batterskull. I know that one of my friends was playing this deck. They were not sure how good Stoneforge was in the shell. I myself am not sure either. But, it certainly can grab your Sword of the Meek, make things easier for you later. It's a deck that I don't have a ton of experience with. The Karn the Great Creator is interesting. It even has Mycosynth Lattice in the sideboard. So this deck is doing a lot of different things, attacking from a lot of different angles. Ooh, the Karn can even grab another Sword of the Meek out of your sideboard. That's interesting. So this is a deck that might be worth looking into depending on kind of how it plays out. Next up, we have another Stoneforge Mystic deck. This one being green-white. With Renegade Rallier. It looks like this is more of kind of a value deck, playing 3 equipments main between Light and Shadow, Fire and Ice, and Batterskull. Eternal Witness, Flicker Wisp, Flipper Wisp, kind of makes it so you want those more equipments, kind of like we talked about earlier. But you also get Double Herrick, which I think is really helpful in a lot of these style of decks. Restoration Angel is a protection spell. Follow you to tax them. This deck looks sweet. This is a deck that I would be interested in trying out. Kind of a more value-driven protect your stuff deck, but definitely a sweet one in my opinion. Even Mind Center's out of the board. Settle the Wreckage, that's interesting. Knight of Autumn, Celestial Purge. This is a deck by oh man, I will not Miguel Caster. Super interesting, something to keep an eye on when you're looking at different Stoneforge Mystic decks to try out. Okay, this one's pretty classic. It looks like we have Karn, Mycosynth Lattice combo with Winds of Abandon. That's sweet. Kind of with a value green-white deck. Lots of Ranger, Captain of Eos, Knight of the Reliquary, 1 Giver of Ruins to get with your Ranger. This deck looks interesting. Elvish Reclaimer, being able to go sacrifice a land, put a different land on the battlefield. So you've got kind of these different land packages that you could be getting here. This is reminiscent of some of the Maverick decks that people might play. This is another one that I would be interested in trying out. You got the 3 main deck equipment to make your Stoneforge Mystics better. This deck looks sweet. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I like the Thraben Inspector. I know that you can get it with Ranger, but I mean, I guess it holds equipment fine. I don't know. That's that one's an interesting one to me. Martyr of Sands with Squadron Hawk and Stoneforge Mystic, kind of like Martyr Blade. 2 Batterskull, just because the life gain is so much better in this deck. It's certainly interesting to me. Generous Gift, I love it. I would not be interested in playing this deck, but it might just be fine. It might be something worth trying out. Serra Ascendant's a heck of a magic card. You can play Ranger of Eos, which is just really powerful. Yeah, I mean it's your Martyr deck. We have this time we have white with Blade Splicer, Restoration, and Stoneforge Mystic. So Stoneforge Mystic putting in a lot of work in this update. Looks like people right. It probably just is the second most played card. Batterskull's Light and Shadow again. Light and Shadow seems like it's getting a lot of love in these. Nothing too weird out of the sideboard. We have that Fire and Ice. Kind of, swords getting more play. We have typical burn here. It looks like this one is actually mono red burn. Nope. We have Lightning Helix and Boros Charm. Only 2 Skullcracks main, 1 more Skullcrack in the sideboard, so still not 4 Skullcracks in the 75 of these burn decks. This one is Bant with Stoneforge Mystic, something that I could definitely get into. Jace the Mind Sculptor, Teferi, Batterskull. This deck looks sweet. This is the kind of magic I'm in for. 4 Force of Negations main. We also have Spell Quellers as more interaction. This is the kind of deck that I would build if I was building a Stoneforge deck to start out. Not sure how great it is. We'll continue to kind of go through these lists. Only 2 equipment main deck, which I'm not sure I like with Fairy Time Reveler, as you can probably fit 1 more in there somewhere, but I'm not sure. Deck is sweet though. This is the kind of stuff that I am interested in trying out. We have Primeval Titan, Wood Elves, Calling the Heart. So this is a deck that I played similar. I played Escape Shift deck during the challenge yesterday. Thought my deck choice was good. Hit some bad matchups. Escape Shift is good against the good decks and kind of bad against the bad decks right now, which is not always where you want your ramp decks to be. One of the really cool things about playing ramp decks in a lot of formats is that your deck is actually good against the bad decks, and I don't think that is true of this deck right now. Straight Storm getting some love here. Deck is fine. I think is how most people describe this right now. I think this is better than Twiddle Storm, but I know that people are also interested in Twiddle Storm right now. Alright, we have Gideon Jura making an appearance in Blue Eye Control with Stoneforge Mystic, Batterskull 3 equipment. This is just Blue Eye Control playing Stoneforge Mystic, playing this, this classic version of the Stoneforge decks. This one has Feast and Famine, Fire and Ice, and Batterskull. This is one that I would not be surprised if is just like a good way to build this deck. You got great removal in Path to Exile. You've got Force of Negation. You've got Mana Leak. Mana Leak becomes a lot better when you have Stoneforge Mystic. So tons of things going on. It looks like this is just a Stoneforge Mystic format. We're only going through this many decks right now. Tons of things to look at. I'll put the link to these lists in the bottom. But if I'm going to wrap this up and kind of talk about like what's going on in this format, it looks like this was a lot of people trying to figure out Stoneforge decks. Stoneforge decks did well, and I would expect that the challenge results might not reflect that as much as the 5-0s did, and we'll start to see a picture of where the Stoneforge decks lie, what matchups they have good matchups against, and kind of where things come out on top, because it looked like people vying with Stoneforge decks, and the format kind of has to figure itself out from there. So thank you everybody so much for watching. Hit that like and that sub button. Leave a comment. Let me know what your Stoneforge deck would look like. Let me know what you think of this new modern format without Hogek, with this new powerful card, and what you think the best equipment is. If you think that we're missing something, there's some sweet equipment you can play in the sideboard, let the other viewers know. Thank you everybody so much, and we'll see everybody next week.